morning. Don't forget to wake VinnDog.
All right, and then we've got none other than Vin from VinnDoggRadio. What's going on, man? Who are you?
I'll be able to do what I'm doing right now, but at a better level.
Oh, amen. Yep, I can just see myself now out bass fishing with my buddies and listening to VinnDoggRadio on New Jerusalem 101 on the top.
Christopher Palaha, what's up, man?
What's up, VinnDog?
So please welcome my good friend VinnDog.
Adieu. Let's bring on VinnDog. Vinny, what's cracking, man?
Yeah.
What's going on? We gotta get the applause in there, man. Yeah, gotta get the applause. Not for me, for you, dude. Hey, listen, dude, you're the Captain America here, man. Actually, I'm privileged to be on here with the Captain America for Jesus, baby. This is it.
Yes. Don't let the government be your dad. You are self-governed.
Now here he is, a lover of God, America, and people. Captain America himself, VinnDoggRadio.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry we were having technical difficulties in the beginning, but we are here live and direct. It is going to be fun this afternoon, and we're going to talk about some serious stuff that is significantly happening in the Middle East and how it impacts the residents here in the United States of America. And yes, you guys have seen this familiar face on the broadcast. He is a dear brother, and he is an Israeli American, so he has a lot to shine upon the issues that are going on in Israel today, and it is significantly affecting us here in America. My bro, Mr. Mikey Michalov, how you doing, brother? Oh man, hold on. So can you hear me now?
I hear you fine.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because, okay, there we go. All right. So we were talking off the air about all the stuff that is going on in Israel, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me on how so many people are in super denial of all of it right now.
Is it denial, or is it a distortion of the truth that allows for people to display their disdain for the Jewish people? I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it's wrong. You know, they're flat out wrong about what's happening. They're flat out wrong about the motives behind the perpetrators that started this. And they're wrong to think that this will not arrive at the doorstep of the United States if it's not put to bed.
Well, to be honest with you, I think it's already arrived. I mean, look, these people have people that are citizens here already, propagating for them already.
Yeah, and it's only going to continue to get worse. I mean, the reality is Israel is fighting the fight on behalf of the whole West against radical Islamism. And they don't have the flexibility to not win. I mean, there's no choice. That's what Golda Meir said, which is prime minister. You know, we don't have a choice. We have to win, because if we don't win, where would we go? And so the reality is that Israel has no alternative but to eliminate the terrorist regime that is ruling over the Palestinian people.
All right. So you and I know that this is going on too. This happened. They discovered like a missile factory, the IDF. And people are saying, wow, this stuff is not getting out in the mainstream media like it should be. Of course, we know, the Prince of Darkness runs the mainstream media. That's why these things are not being told like they should be.
Yeah, so I hadn't yet seen this headline, but this doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I get I see the news in Israel, so I've seen the children's cribs that are being lifted, and underneath there are rockets. The incubators at hospitals that have firearms placed in them. The RPGs that are placed underneath a bed inside of somebody's home. I mean, wherever you go and you think to yourself, there is no way that there are weapons being stored here for the purposes of causing terrorism, they're there. And so to see that headline that you showed a second ago, it's par for the course as far as I'm concerned with respect to what Hamas is doing in Gaza.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually have video footage of the guys of the IDF talking about this discovery. Watch this.
אלה רקטות. הרקטות האלה היו אמורות להגיע לתל אביב וצפונה משם. כוחות צה"ל איתרו כאן את המחסן הזה. הכל הוסתר כאן במסווה של מבנים אזרחיים לגמרי. הייתה כאן שמירה של חמאס, מצלמות, ואת הרקטות האלה היו משלחים מכאן למתקני השיגור אחרי שבאזורים האלה ייצרו אותם.
Yep. Again, not surprising at all.
Mhm.
I mean, you think to yourself, to hide guns and firearms and weapons inside of an incubator, a neonatal incubator in a hospital, what is the psyche of the person or the people that you're dealing with?
Mhm.
And so this is, I mean, there is so much open territory in Gaza that a lot of people are not actually aware of, because we constantly hear how it's this densely populated area where it's like a sardine can, and there's a lot of raw land out there. And there's a lot of places where the governing body of the Palestinian people could have put a military base by which they conduct defense for their people, and if they're ever put in the position of war where they can launch a war from. But why would they do that? It goes completely against their entire PR narrative that they want to leverage, which is put missile depots in densely populated areas where there's a lot of civilians, because they think that they can put Israel in a position where it's a lose-lose. If Israel doesn't attack, they continue launching rockets. And if Israel does attack, we're going to lose a lot of civilians and we'll be able to get world sympathy. And so it's a good strategy, but I actually think most of the world is seeing it for what it is and beginning. And by the way, the people in Gaza, now that they're getting liberated to a certain extent by the IDF, they're now starting to speak out about what Hamas has been doing to them, which is something they never did before because they don't have free speech out there.
Exactly. And now here's this. Okay. So, like you said, right now, people are being liberated over there. That's not being told, of course. And everybody gets upset with Israel because Israel wants to control the entire area, which of course they should anyway, because all of that area, like, what they call the West Bank is, like we've talked about, is Judea and Samaria. Let's just call it for what it is. So when they say that, oh, well, Israel doesn't deserve that area, well, you tell that to God. You go and take that up with God and see what he says.
Yeah, so it's a good point, because there's the biblical argument, right? Which is that Judea and Samaria and Gaza are both areas by which the borders of the Old Testament outlined for the Jewish people, right?
Yeah, and it's also outlined in the New Testament.
Right. And so let's say we remove the biblical argument from the equation, right? Let's just, for argument's sake, say we're talking to somebody that is an atheist. And we look at it from like a modern history standpoint. When Israel defended itself in the 6-Day War, up until that point, from 1948 to 1967, Jordan controlled Judea and Samaria, and Egypt controlled Gaza. They were not occupied by Israel. Israel had nothing to do with those territories. But then when the war started in 67, Israel took control of those territories. And in an effort to try to make peace with the Arabs, who were only beginning to identify themselves as Palestinians at that time, offered to, option one, give Gaza back to the Egyptians and Judea and Samaria back to Jordan, or option two, allow the Arab people that were now identifying themselves as Palestinians to create their own state. So Israel took possession of these territories in a defensive war, which according to international law and every single war since the beginning of the dawn of time, when you have a defensive war and you win, boundaries are reset and new territories are created. But Israel, because it so desires to want peace, which is contrary to what you're hearing everybody say in the media, they so desired to want peace, they went to the Arab League of Nations with option one, giving back the land to each one of those two nations, or option two, letting the Arabs create their own state. And you look at it and you say, what is it exactly that Israel can possibly do to try to make peace with people that want them dead? There is no way to get there. There just isn't. I mean, that's the harsh reality that Israel is facing.
Well, I totally agree with that, and I have a take on this to where it was written, and it's right here. This is going back to the days of Abraham. It says it right there in clear writing. And then I have,
it's the first words that God spoke to Abraham was in Hebrew, which is go here to this land which I will give your people. And then he reinforced it with Jacob.
Yes. So yes. And so it's amazing to me, like this small area is really offensive to a lot of the world because they think that the Jewish people do not belong in that area, which is a lie, because we can go back a few thousand years and we know that this is it. And as a matter of fact, the word Palestinian was actually done by a Roman leader who said it as an insult to the Jewish people. So all of this stuff is going to come to a halt, and the rocks are crying out, brother. I mean, all the archaeologies, discoveries are happening, and this, you cannot deny it. You can't deny it. The history is there in the land.
You absolutely can't deny it. Again, from a biblical perspective, the writing is on the wall and in the scrolls, so to speak, right, between what God said to Abraham and reinforced it again with Jacob. But again, even if you look modern-ish history, don't all go all the way back to the biblical times, the land of Israel was called Judea. And in 132 CE, the Romans conquered Judea and exiled all the Jews from that land. And the artifacts that you talked about are artifacts from that period of time, currency and so on and so forth. It's all been uncovered already. Mm-hmm. And so they took all the Jewish people that lived in Judea and they exiled them. And the Jews went to Europe, they went to Africa, they went to different parts of the Middle East.
Yep.
So again, even if you're talking to somebody who doesn't believe in the Old or the New Testament, the reality is go beyond that. 500 years before the nation of Islam was born, which is like about 600 CE, 500 years before that happened, the Jews were living in the land of Israel. And so how can you possibly make an argument, biblical or not, that the Jews did not have this land and they're not the rightful indigenous people to the land? It's an asinine argument in any way. And the reality is, the more the lie is told, the more those that are uneducated will believe in its truth. And this is why people like you and me and so many others, we have to continue to speak up for what was actually, what actually happened there, what the history is, and not allow this revisionist attempts to take hold.
Exactly. And I'm going to play this small video, and I played it last week for a couple of scholars, and they're like, wow, where did you find that? And they said that the gentleman that spoke in this video is so accurate and pinpoints everything to the T that he actually ticks off a lot of people at the UN because they have nothing to say. Their mouths are just like pinned shut whenever he brings this stuff up to them. Watch that.
I've come a very long way to see this inscription which from the Egyptian hieroglyphics reads, land of the nomads of Yahweh. It dates to the end of the 15th century BC. It's over 3,400 years old, and that makes it the oldest mention in an inscription of the name of the God of Israel. Here we have a perfect example of something that was found through archaeology, correlating perfectly with what we read in our Bibles. In this case, according to biblical chronology, the Bible says that the Israelites are wandering in the wilderness for 40 years at the latter half of the 15th century BC. Here we have an inscription from the Egyptian pharaoh Amenhotep III that dates to the end of the 15th century BC. The Bible describes the wandering Israelites, the nomadic Israelites, as moving around with their God Yahweh, who is with them by day in a cloud, at night in a pillar of fire. And so what better way for the Egyptian pharaoh Amenhotep III to describe this people than the way that he does right here, nomads of Yahweh.
And it's written, it's in history. This is all truth. And I cannot believe that people have the audacity to come out against Israeli people for defending the land and their families, which is rightly so. And I just don't think that Israel should have to divide their land. Absolutely not. Because if you notice, Egypt built a wall. You know about this, right? Egypt built a gargantuan wall to keep those people out.
Not a single Palestinian has been granted asylum to go into Egypt. Not a single Palestinian has been granted asylum to go into Jordan. Why do you think that is? It's because they know exactly what they're going to get if they allow them to come into their nation. It's the reason why Jordan ethnically cleansed the Palestinian people. It's the reason why Egypt doesn't want them. They know what they're getting with them, and they don't want any part of it. And so Israel, unfortunately, has this problem that it has to deal with. But the reality is they will deal with the problem. There is no way around it. And at the end of the day, for the people that constantly try to say what Israel is doing is disproportionate, it puts people in a moral quandary, it's very simple. What would you do if you were in their scenario? Nobody has an answer to that question. And so the answer to that question is exactly what Israel is doing. But beyond that, when in our history has there ever been a time that one nation has attacked another nation and it's resulted in a war that doesn't have civilian casualties? It doesn't exist. World War II, millions died. The Korean War, millions died. Syria has killed their own hundreds of thousands of their own people.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're supposed to believe that all of a sudden thousands and thousands of people have become humanitarians against civilian life when the numbers are a fraction of that. I call BS very, very frankly to those people.
Yep.
Because that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. And brother, come on, man. The most persecuted people in the world outside Christians are Jewish people.
Yeah.
Come on. It's undeniable.
Yeah, I mean, what about the Christian communities that are being genocidally murdered now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember where did I read that there were like 16,000 Christians that were slaughtered over Christmas?
Man, in Nigeria?
Was it? I'm not sure. I can't recall.
But I know that they're being persecuted in Armenia also.
It's possible. I can't remember where the location was, but I remember reading about it and how it's not garnering any media attention because it doesn't fit the narrative of this black and white oppressor narrative that's been adopted that for some reason people think is going to carry some sort of weight. And it's just not. Everybody wants to blame the Jewish people for, the success that they have or this fallacy that they somehow control everything that's going. First of all, it's a lie. It's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, it's just a justification to try to, bolster hatred towards a group of people. They're racist. That's just what they are. There's no other way around it. They are racist. And thank God we have Israel, because if we didn't, the Jewish people around the world would be in a very challenging position.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is, they do not want Christians around because we stand for righteousness. We know. Think about it. The Bible is a Jewish book. Come on. It's a Jewish book.
Yeah.
And we are obedient to God's word, and they don't like that because guess what? Israel is implemented in his words. That's why they don't like it. And they say, well, you Zionists are crazy because you believe that Israel shouldn't have to divide their land. Well, guess what? We're not crazy. And if we are crazy, we're crazy for God because he tells us, hey, look out, take care of my people. And, vice versa. This is, it's like the Apostle Paul said, it's neither Jew nor Gentile. We're all one body. You know what I mean? We have to take care of one another because these people that are globalist are the ones that are, doing the work for the devil, bro. They are causing all this. They want to race bait. They want to destroy everybody from within. That's their agenda. And they're doing a fine job, may I add.
Yeah, look, I'll give them credit where they deserve it. They are a PR machine, and they are really pulling at the strings of people's emotions that know better and are completely uneducated on the matter and misinformed on the matter. But they're also well financed. I mean, so many of the protesters that are out there are showing up because they're getting paid. I actually talked to somebody who lives in New York, and she was telling me that the people that are going out to protest are just lonely New Yorkers that don't have anything to do. And they walk on the streets and they see a protest going on. They ask what's going on. And they're like, oh, come join us. Like, it's such an amazing family of people. You're going to love everybody here. Come on, join us. And we'll have, some financial stipend on top of it. And so, they jump into the fray and it looks a lot bigger than it is. And all of a sudden, these people are beginning to adopt all these lies thinking it's true. And funny because there's so many videos out there where these people that are protesting are being asked, okay, from the river to the sea, what does that mean to you? Like, what river and what sea? And they have no answer. Well, what do you do about the Jewish people living in Israel? They have no answer. How do you support Gaza when the Islamist extremism have a track record of murdering people because they're gay? It just they don't know anything about what's going on in that area, and they're latching on to protesting against Israel because they perceive it to be trendy and cool and the hip thing to do.
And one of the evil leaders came out and said, people in America are doing his bidding without him even having to pay them to do it. That's sad.
The leaders in the Iranian leaders and the Iranian regime and all of their puppets are laughing in the face of how stupid they've exposed people to be that have bought into their propaganda. They are, without a doubt, I have no doubt in my mind that they're sitting around the table, probably drinking some tea and looking at each other and saying, can you guys believe what's happened to the world? Like, this is amazing for us. We completely fooled all these young kids. Look at what they're saying. They're doing all of our bidding for us. It's incredible.
And the crazy part is they're saying, and it's Israel's greatest ally, America.
Oh yeah, and that's the part about America that is giving me confidence and at the same time concerning me, is that how is the majority of the West, America and Europe, not waking up to this, not realizing that this is not just an Israel problem. All of Europe is flooded with this problem now, and the United States is beginning to get there too. And when they say that they're going to eradicate Israel and then move their way to the United States, you better take them at face value for their threats, because they very much intend on doing it. And if you give them the capability to do it, they won't hesitate. They won't think twice. If Hamas had the power to continue to penetrate all the way through Israel beyond the southern territories, up into the northern part, into Jerusalem, into Tel Aviv, all the way to the north, if they had the ability to actually get through and slaughter every single Jewish person possible, they wouldn't have stopped. They would have continued on and have completely committed full-blown genocide against the Jews, because that's what they're driven on. And how are we not supposed to take that threat seriously?
Exactly. They're doubling down every single second.
Mhm.
These people are not
Yeah.
letting up. And you know what's crazy? They even have people in Hollywood, that consider themselves to be of Jewish descent coming out against Israel. That's what is sickening. It's just sickening what's happening, bro.
Yeah, it's really disappointing, but I will tell you this. As much as you're hearing some of the people in Hollywood that are supporting them, I can't tell you how many messages I get from American Jews that have said they have been on the liberal side of the political aisle, even on the very left side of the political aisle, and they can't believe what's happening. And this has completely changed their perspective and opened their eyes to what's going on, and they're beginning to change their ways. And so, you know, God works in mysterious ways, in ways that most of the time we will never understand and never comprehend.
I'm gonna tell you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you this much, and I want everybody to hear this from the sound of my voice, and I'm gonna say this plainly and clearly. The world is gonna be in for a reckoning with God when He throttles them for coming against His chosen land, His chosen people, because once all of Israel turns to God, guess what? Everything else is going to get badoomed. That's it. God is going to throttle people who are coming against Israel at full force. I'm telling you, it's coming, Mike. I'm telling you, it's going to happen in a blink of an eye. And people are, I'm telling you, please put yourselves on the right side of history, because this is not going to be tolerated for long. I'll tell you that right now. Of course, there's still going to be wars up until then, but man, I'm telling you, brother, coming against Israel is not a good idea.
Look, we've had how many people have tried to eliminate the Jewish people off the face of the map? You know, you had pogroms after pogrom after pogrom. You had the Holocaust. You had wars. You have this, and it seems like every time it's happened, the perpetrators, they end up in the history books, and the Jewish people continue to survive and thrive as a result of it. And that will happen again now. I mean, look, you know, you go to a pro-Palestinian movement protest, and they're chanting for death, they're chanting for genocide, they're chanting for the eradication of an entire group of people. And you go to a pro-Israel protest, if you've seen them on the news or if you've ever attended one in person, they are singing songs of prayer, they are singing songs of peace, they're praising God for every amazing thing they have and every challenge that God has put. It's a night and day difference. You cannot imagine the difference between the two protests. There is not a single pro-Israel rally that calls for the death of a Palestinian person. They don't exist.
Exactly. And I just want to reiterate these things. And this is the truth, bro. And you know what? People are gathering back to Israel right now as we speak. This is the truth. It's happening.
I don't know if you've heard this statistic or not, but Israel is the only country in the world that when it's in war, the price of real estate goes up.
Yep. Sure does.
And in war, it's one of the only nations that where in most cases people flee the nation to seek asylum. There are thousands amongst thousands amongst thousands of people that are going to Israel because of what's going on. And so it's like this inverse effect. And I think that's so much of the crux of the hatred towards the Jewish people, is that it's just, there's a lack of understanding that people don't get what it means to have the connection to this land rooted in the Bible, rooted in the Old Testament, that it runs so deep and goes so far and it has so much meaning that for us it's everything. And I think there's an element of it that is honestly jealousy that they don't have that with the nations that they live in. Because look, there are 22 Muslim nations in this country. There's one Jewish one. And so much attention is being put on the Jewish ones when all of the 22, Muslim nations, they have their challenges. And so, it's just an interesting dichotomy to see how this thing plays out.
Yeah, and here's where I'm going to go with this. When people are coming out against the Jewish people, remember this. You're coming out against yourself because all of our blood runs red. You're coming out against yourself. Period. When you go against, it's just clinically insane what is happening, and people are buying the lie. That's what gets me, bro. People buy the lie. I mean, when you put up this this photo I'm going to show you last night, it kind of got me because I'm like, that's crazy because that's happening to a fellow brother.
Oh, yeah, from my Instagram story.
Yes. I had to grab this story. These are things that are happening that will never be highlighted.
Yeah, I mean this kid played volleyball for a predominant. Actually, I think he was the only Jewish player in the whole team, and was a extreme advocate for coexistence. So, taken as a hostage, slaughtered. God only knows what they did to him before he died. And why? Not because if they looked at him, they should have said, "Oh, this guy is a major advocate of ours. He wants to coexist. He wants peace. This is the type of people we need to lift up. We need to get them out there speaking and help, perpetuate our cause further." But no, they slaughtered him. Why? Because he was Jewish. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters to them. Whether you're religious or secular, whether you are from Middle Eastern descent or from European descent, whether you believe in Israel or you're an anti-Zionist, it does not matter. They're coming after you no matter what. Because at the end of the day, you are Jewish. And so that kind of existential threat better take seriously.
Yeah. Bro, I know that they're going to come after folks like me and you and, people who stand up for what's right because it's a part of their agenda. And like you just said right now, those people that are anti-Zionist and anti-Israel, just anti-Jewish and anti-humanity, period, when they get us out of the way, man, they're going to really throttle you. That's their plan. They want to get us out of the way first, and then they're going to take care of the ones that were the followers. You see how that goes. They're like, hey, you weren't even loyal to them. How are you going to expect us to think that you're going to be loyal to us?
Yeah, and again, this is not about Israel's desire to not have peace with its neighbors. Believe me, the moment the Palestinian people say we no longer want war, we want to live in peace, they will have peace in that moment. It's happened with Egypt, happened with Jordan, happened with the UAE, it's happened with Bahrain, with the Abraham Accords. We do not want war. I don't know how many times we have to reiterate this. It's the last thing we want. The amount of pain that we go through over the death of one person, to us, we would happily do anything we could to avoid the war. But the problem is, you can't sit across the table and look at the other person on the other side and say, okay, what are the obstacles we have for peace? Let's work through them. And the other person says to you, the obstacle for peace is that you're breathing. And then where do you take it from there? You don't have a partner to negotiate with.
That's right. So I don't know if you saw that they were tearing down the fence at the White House, and these are, pro-Palestinian protesters that probably don't even know why they're protesting. But check this out. But that's a peaceful protest right there, my friend. That's peaceful.
Have you seen the pro-Israel protests that happened in DC like a month and a half ago?
Yes. Yes,
Just
I did.
compare them. Just compare them.
You can't. You can't. That was a real peaceful one.
You will not see a single flag of the United States of America at a pro-Palestinian protest. And if you look at the pro-Israel ones, they are flooded with Israeli flags and they're flooded with American flags. The values that we live for and the values that we have so much appreciation and the liberties that we get to enjoy and the root behind what America stands for and people is identical to what it is in Israel. There's so much commonality between the two, which is why you see so many U.S. flags at a pro-Israel protest. And you look at these pro-Palestinian ones, they're violent, they're vile, they're chanting hate, they're chanting for death. And everybody who is looking at this, who obviously the ones that are pro-Israel supporters, they know what they're saying. But those that don't really know what's going on in Israel, just look at that. Just look at what they're chanting for and ask yourself if those are things that you aspire to. And their counter argument will be, oh yeah, but what we're really protesting for is, no more deaths of the innocent women and children in Gaza. And so they pull on these strings to try to evoke an emotional response out of people that don't know any better. But you have to get back to, okay, let's establish the one simple fact that if Hamas did not invade Israel on October 7th, however many thousand of them that are dead today would be alive. But if you think you can attack Israel and Israel is not going to respond, you're sorely mistaken. It's just not going to be a thing. And by the way, every single nation on this earth would do exactly what Israel is doing. And honestly, they wouldn't do it with the care and caution that Israel is doing. Israel has lost, I think the number is now over 300 soldiers. Especially yesterday was a really, really difficult day in Israel. We lost 21 soldiers in a single attack in Gaza. It was a devastating day for Israel.
That's almost like losing 30,000 soldiers here.
It's awful.
Yeah.
There is a very strong argument to be made that the amount of Israeli soldiers that are dying because of the care and caution that they are executing this mission with in Gaza. And if they were really careless about civilian death in Gaza and they just, it was what it was and they didn't care how many civilians died, a lot of those soldiers would be alive today. And so we're losing more lives on our end in order to care for their people, because the reality is Israel cares more about the Palestinian civilians than their own government cares about their civilians. That's the cold hard truth.
Well, their government is not really government; it's an oligarch.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, the top four guys of the Palestinian leadership are collectively worth $11 billion with a B. That they have stolen money from the United States and from the European nations, money that was sent to the Palestinian territory for humanitarian aid to help build schools, hospitals, roads, waterways, electricity, you name it. Billions and billions of dollars have funneled through to the Palestinian territories for the benefit of the people, and their leadership has stolen it, they've pocketed it, and they put their people in a position of poverty and raised them to think that the reason that they're experiencing the plight that they're experiencing is not because of their own leadership, but because of their Jewish neighbors next door. And it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. I don't know of another word to describe it other than absurd.
Yeah, it is absurd. And the thing of it is that it seems like the level of absurdity just keeps on growing.
Yeah, I
And
mean, everybody's calling for ceasefire. Israel offered a ceasefire yesterday that was rejected. It was a 60-day ceasefire. And what was the main condition of the ceasefire? We want our hostages back. But they wouldn't give their hostages back. Why would they? It's their strongest leverage in this war. And honestly, I think a lot of them, they probably don't know what the condition is of them, and they're not in a position to return them. But for the whole world that's chanting ceasefire, all the politicians in the US Congress that are chanting ceasefire, there you go. Israel offered it yet again, and yet again, it was denied. And so, what do you want them to do? I keep coming back to the simple question. If you were Israel, what would you do? And it's the one question nobody can answer.
yeah, say for instance, it's like somebody's gonna come to your home, right, and try to take over your house, like literally Bogart, and just bombard themselves inside your house. What are you gonna do? You're gonna protect your house, right?
Correct.
So that's why I believe that Israel's in the right protecting their nation and their people. And dude, it's crazy, bro. It's crazy that they're looking like the bad guy. But you know what? That is how they propagated all of this to be.
Yeah, it's true. You're spot on with that. It's such an unfortunate situation, and we wouldn't hold this absurd benchmark of expectations of any other government or any other nation, and yet we expect Israel to do something that is counterproductive to their own effort, that would arguably put in advance its own destruction. Absolutely not. No. The answer is just no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what really like got me going is when I saw the video of these people of Hamas dragging an Israeli soldier in the middle of the streets, chanting Allah Akbar. I'm like, really? That's crazy to me, man. And
Yeah, I mean,
people expect us to believe that these guys that are doing all this are peaceful and trying to just get along. No, they're not trying to get along. They're in the mode of elimination. That's what they're doing.
they not only took soldiers on October 7th,
Mm-hmm.
they took children. They took a child who just turned 1 year old.
Yep, I know. I remember.
They took children. They took women. They took elderly. They took They took people that come from 14 different countries, not just Israelis that day. They took Muslims. They didn't just take Jews. They took anybody that they can get their hands on because they have zero value for life, and the value that we as believers in God place on life is the value that they place on death. And so for them, doing what they're doing, knowing that it will result in their ultimate demise, is exactly what they've been raised to aspire to become. The martyrdom that they're looking for is exactly what they want. They want this because again, they place that value on death the way that you and I place value on life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And they don't mind using people as human shields either.
No, I mean, you put in you look. They have, I think it's now 250 meters of underground, 300 meters of underground terratunnel network. The amount of infrastructure and technology and engineering to concoct this network of tunnels underground, and they're popping up in schools, they're surfacing into hospitals, they're surfacing in people's homes. They're smart because they're putting them in places where they know Israel is very unlikely to attack unless it absolutely would have to be in a position to do so. But they're surrounding themselves around civilians and in civilian locations because they're making it that much harder. You know what they are? They're cowards. That's all that they are. They're absolute cowards. They're not men who know how to fight an honorable fight. They're hiding behind women and children. And the only term to come up with for them is a coward. That's all that they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't care that those people are living in poverty, bro.
No, their poverty continues to play into their propagandist effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite the contrary. They want them to continue to suffer and to not have prosperity. I mean, the whole argument that is made that they don't have their own electricity or their own water, they had access to both. They ruined it. They never maintained their waterways. And so their waterways went away. So they had to then go to Israel to get the water. And Israel, of course, did it. But what nation supplies another nation with water and electricity? You know, like this is not a common thing, especially a nation that calls on their debt. And so there's so much of it that is backwards in thinking and contradictory to just rational thought that you got to get more people talking about it and advocating on behalf of Israel, because at the end of the day, Israel is on the right side of this, and they will continue to do what needs to be done. I hope that they don't. I actually don't want them to have a ceasefire unless it's conditioned upon the release of all the hostages and the full-blown surrender of Hamas. Those, at the very least, have to be the stipulations in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with those stipulations, and they're gonna deny it every time it's offered because they have one thing to do, and that's to try and conquer Israel, which we know good and darn well it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know, so
It won't.
no, it won't. It won't happen at all. It won't happen at all, because what we have to continue to do, and as you know, my audience are predominantly Christians. We are told by the Lord our God to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. That's our job, and also to support Israel. I mean, make a call to a Jewish synagogue and say, hey, look, we are behind you 100%. You know what I mean? We have to do that. That's what we're called to do, because right now there are a lot of people that are, in synagogues and in communities that are feeling like they're alone on an island because of all of this stuff that is happening right now.
Yeah. I mean, what you just said made me think. I did a post on last Monday. It was Martin Luther King Day. And I did a post about how Dr. King was a Zionist. Dr. King saw the value of the relationship between the African American community and the Jewish community, the shared values, the shared history, so much of the persecution that our two peoples went through, and that he understood that the Jewish people had to have a state of their own to call home, and that state had to be the state of Israel. And you fast forward that to today, and it's like, where did all this future come from? Right? Like, if you go back 40, 50 years, 60 years, there was so much support, and it's a result, in my opinion, of decades and decades and billions of dollars being funneled into our education system that has completely destroyed our youth. I mean, I saw a statistic that everybody loves to go after APAC, right? The American Israeli Policy Affairs Council.
Yes.
And how APAC is, they funded they're funded to the tune of $80 million, right? Since its history. Do you know that Qatar has funded college universities, not since its history, just in the last, I think, 12 or 13 years, to the tune of over $3 billion?
Wow.
You compare those two, where is the money? Just track the money. That's all it comes down to.
There is a paper trail.
There is a paper trail, and I think there's a very strong argument to be made that our government needs to look at funding for universities, and some sort of regulation has to be put on it to not allow this amount of foreign aid to come in, because ultimately they're holding these schools hostages to dictate the curriculum that they're going to be teaching, and all of their. I mean, only like 15% of the schools are teaching today about the Holocaust, and it's not even 100 years ago.
Yeah, and Hillsdale College is one of them. Yep. Hillsdale is one of the very few colleges that teaches about the Holocaust.
I heard Texas A&M is actually one of the good colleges too. That's classical education university. But I don't know.
Man, but you know what? You're hitting the nail on the head, brother. And you know what? The thing is, we have to take a total stand. We have to be the ones that are holding the line to let these people know, hey, look, we're not going to stand for this. You know, I mean, DJ Bonhoeffer said it best. You know, about with things that were happening during the Holocaust. He stood up against the machine, and look what happened to him. Sometimes, things like that are going to happen, but at least you stood for what's right.
Right.
You don't want your entire life to be for naught.
Nope. I agree. I totally agree with you on that. Yeah.
So, man, you know what, man, Mike, I'm glad I got you on, Mikey, man. I was like, man, got to have this brother on, man. And I like our once a month conversations on this because I think we need to shed some light on the things that are really happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, I enjoy him too. I will say that, and I know that you agree with this, so I don't mind saying it, but I will say that I do look forward to the day where we don't have to have these conversations because the world has woken up and they are taking a stand and fighting for what's right and standing up for truth and faith and the Judeo-Christian values that we all aspire to. And that would mean that you and I wouldn't have to be having these conversations on a going forward basis, but that would be okay. We'd be talking about some other stuff.
Yeah, we'll be talking about all the good food that we're going to have at a barbecue or something,
Yeah, of course.
That's what I'd much rather be talking about right now.
100%.
Man.
and I know your listeners are mostly from the Christian community. Honestly, just to close this out, I just want to say thank you. Honestly, really, really, on behalf of myself and so many of the Jewish people in our community, we are so appreciative to the Christian community for standing behind the Jewish people, for advocating on our behalf, for standing up for what's right and believing and fighting for what Israel is doing to protect itself and to protect the nation of Israel. And it doesn't go unnoticed. It's very much appreciated.
Absolutely, man. And it'll continue. It'll continue until the day it doesn't have to happen anymore.
For sure.
It's going to continue, bro. Do you mind if we pray for you guys right now, brother?
No, I'd appreciate it.
Man, Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for my good brother, Mikey, and, our fellow Jewish brothers and sisters. And we just pray that you just cover them in your protection as they're going through this horrible ordeal right now that is happening to them in Israel and also abroad. It's happening worldwide, Lord. And we just want you to just intervene and just, protect them and, smite those enemies, get rid of their enemies. Because, man, we need to make sure that they're just dealt with, Lord. And we know that you have all of the ultimate answers. And we just love you and thank you. And we just ask you to go before us in your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Appreciate you, my man.
Yes, sir. And I got to tell you, what's going to happen within the coming months is that it could get to a point that history is really repeating itself right now. And I even asked my wife, I said, man, what if it gets to a point to where we're going to have to house a Jewish family? Are you prepared to do that? She goes, yeah. Because it's crazy to even have to discuss this in 2023. You know what I mean?
My dentist is not Jewish, and the moment the war happened, he called and said, "You guys can come to my house if you need to."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's to think that we're in this position in 2023, less than 100 years after the mass murder of 6 million Jewish people, to think that the hatred only was somewhat silenced for 75 years and now it's come back with the fierceness that it has. I think a lot of people need to dig deep and find God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because man, under God, we're all one family, bro, and we have to take care of each other in each and every way that we can.
100%.
Cool, brother. Mikey, bro, you and I are gonna have to do lunch one day, brother.
Would love to.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Would love to.
and you have to come out and do a live show in studio, man.
You got it. You got it. Where are you located?
I'm in Riverside County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to figure the logistics on that one out one time. But you know what? If God wills it, it'll happen, right?
Oh, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to be done, man. I appreciate you being on with me, brother.
Appreciate you too, my man. Take care, and thank you again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. God bless.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you feel it led on your heart by the Lord to support the broadcast and what we do here, and you know what? We got to pray for our Jewish brothers and sisters. And it's just beautiful what we can do when we witness to our Jewish brothers and sisters, and we come alongside them and say, hey, we love you. We want you to know that we're there for you. We're with you. And, you know, I just enjoy this time that we all get to spend together and just, you know, talk about the truth, the real truth about things that are happening in the world. It's insane what's happening. And we just have to continue to take a stand until the Lord Jesus Christ returns. That's what we have to do. I'm just thrilled to be here with you all, because without you, there's no me. Without God, there's no you or me. He breathes life into us each and every day. So please, please pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And we know that the real peace is going to show up when the Prince of Peace returns, brothers and sisters. God bless you. Love one another. Take care of each other. And remember, continue to pray for our brothers and sisters in Israel and around the world that are fighting to stand for righteousness. God bless you. VinnDog loves you. I'm out.